Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Dr. Corns. It is noon on February 25th. Believe it or not, this is the beginning of week 6 of the semester. We got a total of 15 weeks, so we have actually next week and then spring break, and then we come back to finish. So I hope everybody is doing well. So let's go ahead and jump into this week. I don't have a whole lot to talk about, but a few things. And there's so once again the week 6 discussion questions, and we'll talk about this again, are due on Friday by 11:59. So that's the 2 discussion questions and 2 responses to your peers by the end of the day on Sunday. So let's get into the content for this week. So this week we're talking about control stations. And you can read the introductions, so the objectives, the function of basically describe the function of the control station, explain the need for an open architecture in UAS. We'll talk a little bit about that. So this week is chapter 13, not too long in the Austin textbook. And then I have some websites and some video for you to take a look at that will explain a little bit more of ground stations in general. So you can get to the live stream basically on this link if you are watching now, or if you're watching later. You should also be able to access it. And then the slides that I am using today are actually in PDF format, so they're right down here. You can access those. Same thing as you can access the discussion questions from the links within the content module. So let me open up the PowerPoint since I've had it closed, and we'll get to this week's briefing. Or not. So let me go back let me just open it up from here. So let me talk about the control stations from the PDF. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to download this. Well, we're just going to do it from here instead. So anyway, this week got a few announcements, a few things in the news. We're trying to talk about control stations. And for that, like I said, deliverables. So you got 2 questions that are due on Friday, and Sunday, 11:59. They're the responses. So, like I said, week 6. Hopefully, everybody is doing well, and so everybody's doing well. If you have any issues in your class, now is the time to speak. Next week we have to put out midterm grades. So, make sure that you have any questions on that. And if you don't have, you having issues in class, make sure you reach out to your professor and see if you can resolve those issues. So anyway, let's talk about assignment 1 feedback. So, sorry for the delay, but assignment 1 is graded and it should be in the books. And basically, it was looking at the Inspector General report for the Customs and Border Protection MQ-1 Predators that were assigned, and it related back to one of the discussion questions we had in Unit 2 was about the benefits, the economic benefits of unmanned aircraft. So some of you stayed with the original and some actually switched positions, which there was no right or wrong answer. So in general, I just want to go ahead and give you some general feedback in here. Excuse me. So the biggest thing is make sure that you read and understand the questions and what's required of you. So, and when you develop your positions, and answer, the big thing is just answer the question and also provide enough supporting documents, references for that. The other thing is proofreading. So a lot of spelling errors, a lot of syntax errors. I see a lot of it when people talk about the Predator. The MQ-1 is they do not capitalize the name of the Predator. So it is a name of a system, so you must capitalize that. So why do I harp on spelling and syntax? Think about this when you graduate from college and you are putting out a resume to a prospective employer. They're looking two things. One is to hire you. The other thing is not to proceed any farther, basically to reject your resume. And if you have any spelling errors or syntax errors in there, that just shows that you didn't put any effort into your resume or even to your cover letter, and they could reject it, especially when you've got a couple hundred candidates applying for the same position, is they want the best of the best in there. So set yourself apart. Make sure all your spelling's correct, your formatting is correct. Just make sure that it fits the bill. The other part of this is formatting. Okay, so when you write these things, so I had you do APA 6th edition. This is really the first time I've done this. The department has gone to APA 6th edition, and actually we're going to be transitioning to 7th edition here shortly. But if you use a template for APA in order to format your paper, get rid of those directions or the cues that are in parentheses or the brackets. So do not include those. That is designed for you to kind of fill in the blanks, fill those in. It actually detracts from the paper. It's also best to format your paper just like I had it broken down. There was 4 separate questions. Is make it easy for the reader. Okay, so to go through your paper. The other part of this is support your position. So a lot of people, it's okay to have opinions. So I thought this was the better aircraft or this or that for that, but put in there why. So in other words, put a reference. So, according to the U.S. Air Force or according to, John Smith on such and such, he states that the Predator is a better aircraft for the following reasons. So make sure you include references and also make sure you use citations for your sources. And I mentioned a couple people, if you're going to put citations in there, sometimes it's better to put page numbers. So if I want to go look it up, it's easier for me to look it up. But these are just a few things. So writing is a big part of the aviation industry. So also be able to, understand what I was asking for. If anybody had any questions, they're free to reach out. But in the aviation industry, we have a lot of technical information and things. We work in in a high reliability domain. So where if we make mistakes, people can die from this. So same is true with unmanned aircraft. So you want to make sure that everything is clear and concise, and you understand that. So those are a few things to take a look at. So a lot of you had various positions. So my position is, and I'm surprised, well, not really too surprised, but nobody asked the question or answered the question, is why does the U.S. Customs and Border Protection have MQ-1 Predators? Right? So why is a civilian organization actually flying military equipment? So to answer that question is, I don't have the exact date, but Congress told them they must take 10 aircraft. So if you think about it, and for somebody who used to live in Arizona and has lived along the border, that our southern border is about 2,000 miles long. That is a lot of territory to cover with. In reality, we have 2 on the northern border with Canada. I don't suspect that we have any problems with Canadians sneaking across the border, but we have some issues with immigration on the southern border. Whether you agree with it or not, that's a moot point. But Congress told the Customs and Border Protection that they will buy 10 aircraft and they will operate 10 aircraft. So when your operating cost is over $12,000 per hour, you can only cover a very short segment. That leaves a lot of gaps in the border, or that can be exploited by individuals who want to take advantage of the system. So my position is I would rather have a lot of smaller unmanned aircraft. They're less expensive than a Predator to both purchase and operate. I would like to put them in the hands of the boots on the ground, so those agents that are on border. So if I need to look over a hill or look down a ravine, is I have that capability. I don't have to rely on somebody who is, could be anywhere from 10 to 100 miles or even 1,000 miles away actually providing that information. So that is just my position. I would rather have smaller units. I'd rather have more of them and put the assets where you need them. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So like I said, there was no right or wrong answer for this. It was just stating your position, and then a lot of people lost points because they didn't back up the position. The other thing was, I forgot to mention previously, is make sure that you read and understand where to put your assignments and your drafts and how to respond and timelines in that. So make sure that you respect all the deadlines. So if not, you notice that things start closing at the deadline and you can't access them anymore. So coming to the next, let's take a look in the news. And there's a lot going on in the industry, but I just wanted to focus on one issue right now, and that's the notice of proposed rulemaking for small UAS. The reason I brought this up, and I've mentioned it before, the comment period closes March 2nd. Okay, so just about a week away in there. I highly recommend that everybody take the time to look at this, especially if you are going to get into unmanned aircraft as a living, because this can greatly affect you. I'm not going to tell you, my opinions in there, other than some of it is I agree with and some of it I disagree with, but that's up for you to determine. Now, I know that you're just getting into it, so you may not have a position, but be careful where you look. Don't get caught up in some of these posts online where there's a lot of emotions. But I found this. Somebody put some tips for how to address this issue. When I looked yesterday, there was a little over 19,000 responses. And whether you're for or against it, I recommend if you're for it, put in some good words for it. If you're against it, and I won't say against it, but the areas that can be improved, make sure that you exercise your rights to have your voice heard. So, and I will leave it at that. All right, moving on. So ground control stations. Here's some various images. If you think about it, the ground control station is just a location for other subsystems of unmanned aircraft systems. Okay, so it could be your communications, it could be your data links, your video links, it could be supporting hardware, it could be supporting software. So it's a variety of things. It can be something as simple as when you're out in the field with a remote controlling your aircraft. It could be something like a phone. Now that you can control them off of phones, that is considered a control station. Now, control stations can be either ground stations. Okay, they can be either seaborne stations, so we can operate unmanned aircraft at sea. And then in some cases, they can have airborne stations. They're just getting into those, but you can control an unmanned aircraft from within another aircraft. Now, right now, that is illegal according to Part 107, but there are some government research going on to where either helicopters or basically fixed-wing aircraft can launch another aircraft. So there's a variety of systems, and I don't even know where to start. We've got some that are in cars, some in trucks and trailers and vans, some where you just stand out there, so you're in the elements. For those who have been deployed overseas and have seen the Scan Eagles, the Shadows, or the Hunters, or some of the other type of ground control stations, they're controlled by computers, and anytime you have a computer involved, overheating is an issue. So most ground control stations that are in austere environments, either high heat or very cold, have some type of environmental system, so either air conditioner or heaters, which is kind of nice. Those that are handheld, you're at the mercy of the elements. But typically, the bigger systems have to have more infrastructure. Anytime you get more infrastructure, then you're talking about additional support, electricians, security, all kinds of stuff. So you can just see how it escalates from there. So the author in the textbook talks, like I said, just about this is really where we can locate other subsystems that will support the mission. So either communications, data, extra crew members. A lot of times you'll see some are in Connex boxes or storage, shipping containers. So you may be operating at a remote location and you may be tied in with some type of mission commander, or could be an intelligence officer or somebody, a stakeholder that you are either communicating over the phone, the radio. It could be even text. It could be a chat message. So various things for that. And then the only other thing I just pulled up some pictures. So these are some of the ground control stations that we have here within a department. So it could be something as simple as a pop-up awning that we put shade up there. We do have 2 ground control station trailers. So we've got a white one and a new blue one. And if you notice on the white one, we've got basically an awning system set up for that, which we can fully enclose. And we've got operator stations in the center. And our new blue one, we have it set up so we've got TVs and internal places for operator stations, and we can carry cargo. So later on in the program, you'll see and get a chance to use these. But depending on where we're going to operate and the length that we're going to operate, we have a variety of different equipment that we can use. So I know it's kind of short, but there's really not too much to talk about ground control stations. So, and once again, is we have the grades are in the grade book for assignment 1. If you have any questions, make sure that you get a hold of me, and I'll be glad to talk to you about how I graded the assignment, ways to improve, things you need to look at for future assignments. So until next week, we will talk to you later.